Hello, this is John, and today we'll be reading Grandparenting by Mark Gungor. This video begins with a speech by Mark Gungor of Laughing Your Way Through Marriage fame, as well as quotes from others on the joy of grandparenting. The current trend of delaying marriage until ages in the late 20s or early 30s is going to have a very serious impact on our country in just one or two generations. Our current culture has decried that marriages of young adults in late teens or early 20s as a terrible idea since the couple is too young. But it wasn't long ago that such a marriage would not have been thought of as unusual, but rather the norm. Let's talk about a threat that almost no one seems to consider when we are talking about delaying marriage: the elimination of grandparents. The culture of divorce that has been ripping and tearing at our national family structure has so far failed to destroy us. Though the documentation of the damage divorce does to people, and particularly their children, is sufficiently solid, American homes have been able to hold together to some degree. This has been in a large part due to the presence of grandparents. These are the wonderful people who love their grandchildren unconditionally and whose age, wisdom, and financial resources have played a key role as stabilizers in those children's lives. Those who delay marriage and child rearing are denying themselves one of the greatest joys men and women have cherished for millennia: to participate in the lives of their grandchildren. Seldom, if ever, do young adults today think of the joys that they want to have later in their lives, mostly thinking of contemporary pleasures. But ask any senior, what is the greatest joy in your life? And they would most likely name grandparenting as number one. For centuries, men and women became grandparents when they were in their late 40s and early 50s, allowing them plenty of time to enjoy and participate in their grandchildren's lives. Then, in their 70s and 80s, they witnessed the arrival of their great-grandchildren. People who delay marriage and family today, however, do not realize how greatly they are cheating themselves by making it virtually impossible to experience their grandchildren. And for what? An extended adolescence? To drink more beer or to experiment with more sexual partners? To focus on their careers and a chance to make money more quickly than their parents did? If Bobby and Susie wait until almost 30 to marry, and then 35 or greater to have children, and their children do the same, we'll just do the math. They'll be 70 before their first grandchildren are even born. Depending on their health and longevity, they are at risk for not being able to enjoy those grandchildren's lives. There is an even greater tragedy for our whole society that will occur than just individual people not being able to enjoy their grandchildren. As I already stated, grandparents have been the very glue that has helped struggling families stay together, or to at least make their grandchildren feel safe should their parents' marriage fail. By delaying marriage and having children, we are participating in the foolish and systematic removal of grandparents altogether. When the kids of the next generation turn 7, 10, or 12 years of age, there won't be many grandparents left to speak of. The final blow to the American family will be complete. No matter what the statisticians say, marriages do not fail because of age, money, or education. Many of the underlying arguments people cite for delaying marriage. Such thinking is utter nonsense. Marriages fail for one reason and one reason only. One or both people become selfish. To imply that young, poor, or high school graduates are incapable of real commitment is an insult. I find it curious that we have young, poor high school graduates fighting for our country overseas with great commitment, some giving the very last measure of commitment by sacrificing their very lives for their fellow soldiers. Their amazing skills with multi-million-dollar equipment will astound you. Do we seriously think they can't handle marriage if they are taught how to do it? Someday historians will write of the end of Western civilization. I'm sure that our propensity for selfishness and narcissistic behaviors is what they will point to as a reason for our demise. Advocating for delayed marriage will be just one more reason we will succeed in destroying ourselves from within. What a bargain grandchildren are. I give them my loose change and they give me $1 million worth of pleasure. Grandmother, a wonderful mother with lots of practice. Perfect love sometimes does not come until the first grandchild, a Welsh proverb. What children need most are the essentials that grandparents provide in abundance. They give unconditional love, kindness, patience, humor, comfort, lessons in life, and most importantly, cookies. Rudolph Giuliani. Our grandchildren accept us for ourselves without rebuke or effort to change us, as no one in our entire lives has ever done. Not our parents, siblings, spouses, friends, and hardly even our own grown children. It's one of nature's ways that we often feel closer to distant generations than the generation immediately preceding us. Igor Stravinsky. Grandma always made you feel she had been waiting to see you all day, and now the day was complete. A grandfather is someone with silver in his hair and gold in his heart. Author unknown. If I had known how wonderful it would be to have grandchildren, I'd have had them first. They say genes skip generations. Maybe that's why grandparents find their grandchildren so likable. Grandfathers are for loving and fixing things. Author unknown. A mother becomes a true grandmother the day she stops noticing the terrible things her children do because she is so enchanted with the wonderful things her grandchildren do. Grandmother-grandchild relationships are simple. Grandmas are short on criticism and long on love. Nobody can do for little children what grandparents do. Grandparents sort of sprinkle stardust over the lives of little children. By the time the youngest children have learned to keep the house tidy, the oldest grandchildren are on hand to tear it to pieces. No cowboy was ever faster on the draw than a grandparent pulling a baby picture out of a wallet. Author unknown. The best place to be when you're sad is Grandpa's lap. Author unknown. And from my teacher, Reverend Moon, as he looks around at his elder brothers and sisters, he wants to sit on their laps. But as he looks at the situation and he studies the mood of his elder brother, it is clear that his brother would push him away after he had sat on his lap for just a few minutes. Also, when he looks at his father, who is very tired, he knows from experience that after he has sat in his father's lap about 10 minutes, his father would become irritated. He learns to sense such things quickly. But when it comes to his grandfather, or elderly people like his grandfather, he knows Grandpa will stay still even if he sits in his lap for an hour or two. Of all the family members, his grandfather will embrace him the most. I am proposing that the grandfather, grandmother, mother-in-law, father-in-law, sisters-in-law, and grandchildren all live together, living together with God. The 3 generations of formation, growth, and completion will settle down. You can love God only when you know how to love your grandfather, not just your father and mother. You will love God only when you can love your grandfather more than your father and mother. Today, the American system is a paradise for the young, but not a paradise for the elderly, because the American system is a paradise for young men and women. Yet neither a paradise for children nor a paradise for grandfathers and grandmothers. Everyone there is digging pits of hell that will lead them to ruin. This is happening because the American system does not fit the original form. Who is the oldest grandfather in the world? It is God. So you learn love for that grandfather from your own grandfather. Our grandchildren are a blessing from God. By learning such a tradition, you can receive the treasure of love from all the secret storage rooms of the grandfather God. How wonderful that will be. Thank you for watching this video with me. My name is John, and I hope you'll share this wonderful video on social media.